Could war be in our future? That probability is increasing on a daily basis, and it is really looking like oil will be the precipitating event. This article here, historic oil rout poised to bust shale and Trump's energy dominance. A historic crash in crude prices is driving U.S. shale into full-on retreat, with operations halting new drilling and shutting in old wells. Moves that could cut output by 20% for the world's biggest producer of oil, and that's the United States. For shale companies, the price of West Texas Intermediate crude went from hunker down and ride it out mode. Now, that was before the Saudis sort of declared war on the U.S. oil companies and Russian oil companies by dropping their prices. This hunker down and ride it out was $40 oil, not, even at 20, that was that was a bailout situation at 20. So from hunker down and ride it out mode to full-on crisis mode in just a few days, with many now unsure whether there will even be a market for their oil. Some 1.75 million barrels a day is at immediate risk of shutting down, while the number of new wells being brought online is forecast to plunge by almost 90% by the end of the year. In short, it's a swift and brutal end to the shale revolution, which only last year had President Trump proclaiming American energy dominance. And so that is gone. And the article goes on. Even at $15, everything back in the field except for the newest and most productive wells is losing money on a cash cost basis. Now, when you first drill a well, at first there's some pressure down there and the oil comes out all by itself. And then as the well ages, it takes more and more energy to get that oil out of the ground. And oil is all about energy in, energy out. If you're getting a lot of energy out for very little energy in, your cost is low. And if it's a lot of energy out, and then that same thing in the refining process. If you've got a very heavy tarry oil, that takes a lot more, it's a lot more costly to refine, and the products that you get out of that aren't as valuable. Even at $15, the existing fields were not profitable. So below 20, they were really in trouble. At this price, you'll start shutting in large amounts of production. It's a bloodbath whichever way you look. Operators are switching off wells, retiring 1 in 3 drill rigs, abandoning fracking, laying off 51,000 workers, slashing salaries, and even going bankrupt just 6 weeks after the latest price plunge began. So, this really, the Oil Armageddon title, that was a good title because it's coming true. That's exactly what's happening, at least for these companies. It is Armageddon for them. Now, with the coronavirus pandemic destroying demand, storage is just weeks away from filling up, a further factor choking back output. And that is the reason that I invested in oil tankers recently, was because they're going to be used for just static oil storage. They're not going to be going anywhere. They're just going to be sitting full of oil. On the main page here, gold and silver have risen a little since this was snapshotted. So gold is above 1,700 and silver is above 15, at least last time I checked. Gold-silver ratio up to 113. So this is climbing again, and I like that because I'm going to be buying a little bit more silver for myself. I don't recommend any gold or silver for anybody. I don't recommend anything. I recommend learning as much as you can and making your own decisions. Delta is burning through $100 million a day in cash. Now, with the fuel prices falling, this might be cut to 70 or 50 maybe, or something like that. And the cost of the flights that are actually moving is going to go down. So that's a good thing for them, but still, they're not going to get to any point where they're not going to need massive bailouts. And then risk of deflation, Japan's inflation is expected to fall below zero. And if you watch episode 7 of Hidden Secrets of Money and you understand the velocity of currency, then you'll understand what's going on here, because Japan has been inflating For 30 years, they've been inflating, and they've been barely able to keep ahead of deflation. And now deflation is taking hold again there. They've got an aging population that is saving up any excess currency that's available, and they're trying to pay down debt, and all of that is deflationary. So moving on the radar, John Najarian says, cost of floating storage of crude oil in tankers has gone up more than 10 times, from $20,000 a day to as much as $300,000 a day, depending on destination. And here there's a little depiction of how many barrels of oil are being stored at sea as of April right now, and how many barrels of oil were in oil tankers back in 2009. It's a huge increase. As a result, the cost of renting an oil supertanker has exploded, $200,000 to $300,000. So thank you very much, John. President Trump, I have instructed the United States Navy to shoot down and destroy any and all Iranian gunboats if they harass our ships at sea. So they're going to shoot down gunboats. I think he may have wanted to insert like fighters or something like that, because you can't shoot down a boat. You can destroy it. But anyway, so he's missing a word there probably. But this is a threat, and it's part of the big downfall of humanity, is that we have this follow the leader mentality, where we got to hold this popularity contest every 4 years and elect a leader for our gang. Because let's face it, all governments are just nothing but enlarged gangs. We started out as warring tribes, and then we became warring city-states, and then now we're warring nation-states. And, the possibility, this is positioning, jockeying for position, trying to see what the reaction is to other people. Oil crisis deepens. These are viewer comments. And it's becoming evident that we are currently witnessing an initial soft, asymmetric war between the major powers of the world. This period is merely testing the waters and some early hand tipping. And so that's what this is. It's just, testing each other and seeing how far somebody can be pushed, and whether or not they're a personality that might back down. So this is like a poker game or a chess game or something like that they're playing. But they're playing with your financial future and our very lives. So this is a very dangerous game, and it is from this follow the leader mentality, where we have a popularity contest every 4 years, and we elect somebody to tell us how to live, because we just don't want to do it on our own. It's really the big downfall of humanity. Okay, so you keep saying there is deflation, but alluding to hyperinflation. Which is it? Short answer, both. You can get a very detailed answer. I've been saying this. It was in my book, basically. This was my favored scenario in my book, which was written from 2005 through 2007. I got to touch it up in 2008. So it's 2.5 years of writing and editing. And there's a total of 6 years of research that went into this. It's the best-selling book on precious metals, but it came out just before the 2008 crash. And in it, I said that there was going to be the threat of deflation. That was a 2008 crash, to which all of the monetary authorities around the world would respond by creating huge quantities of currency. And Ben Bernanke exceeded my wildest nightmares. I mean, with the scale of what he did, what's happening right now is the Bernanke bust. He caused the bubbles that are popping right now due to coronavirus being the pin. But the bubbles existed. And when this happens, it's going to be horrific. But we're in this deflation, and it's all laid out in episodes 6 and 7. But after the 2008 threat of deflation, I said there would be a reflation or inflation, and we've had both. We've had a reflation of the economy and an inflation back into bubbles of the stock markets and real estate and bonds. And then there would be a real crash and real deflation, and that's where we're at right now. And they will respond by printing and printing and printing, or actually typing and typing, until deflation gives way. And at that point, you have to watch episode 7 of Hidden Secrets of Money to see what the outcome is. Socialism has kept market capitalism going to this point. I like some of your stuff, but don't knock our socialist improvements on a failing system. Now, Dennis, I need you to back this up with some historical proof or some economic analysis. I want some data, or I want some historic examples of an economy, a socialist economy that started as a socialist society supporting market capitalism, free market capitalism. I don't think you're going to find any example in it. I don't think, but I would love to see a response video to this with some proof and some data. For everybody else, and Dennis, please go and watch this video up here. It's about capitalism versus socialism. And as far as I can tell, I've studied monetary history in depth for a couple of decades now, and economics, and I know what creates prosperity and what extinguishes it. And what I know is that if you look at the numbers, do an internet search for the Freedom of the World Report, Economic Freedom of the World Report. That's what you want, the Economic Freedom of the World Report. This is done by a moderate think tank up in Canada. This isn't some right-wing conservative think tank, but they all come to the same conclusion. There's like 4 or 5 of these think tanks around the world that collect. There's 167 countries now that produce reliable economic data. They collect that data, put it in a spreadsheet. Turns out the freest societies that have the least amount of social programs and the smallest government and the least amount of regulation, they live 14 years longer. They're the richest societies that have the lowest levels of pollution, low child labor problems, everything. The child deaths, the new births, the death rate for childbirths goes way down in these countries. And the poorest people in those prosperous countries are richer than they are in the countries where they've attempted to make everybody equal and take care of everybody. With socialism, you have to imagine standing in a line with the richest people. Bill Gates and Jeff Bezos are at the front, and all of these big corporations and stuff, and the whole population standing in a line, and they're saying we're going to tax the rich, and then we're all going to divvy up the proceeds. And so don't forget that there's somebody standing behind you that isn't making quite as much as you do, that's pointing at you, saying, oh, we're going to tax him and divvy that up. And there's somebody standing behind them and behind them. And I can tell that you are probably not an entrepreneur that has set up a business, created employment and created jobs and created true wealth. If you are a successful entrepreneur that took that risk and saved up your capital for years and then started a business and hired employees, and everybody else gets paid but you until you start making one of these dirty words called profit. That's when you finally get a reward. And that's what capitalism is. And the free market is simply you and me trying to strike a deal and do an exchange on something. That is the free market. Free market capitalism has produced all prosperity. This is where it all comes from. Socialism always rides on the back of it. And the former prime ministers of Denmark and Sweden have come out to rebut Bernie Sanders and Ocasio-Cortez on their claims that we need to emulate these socialist societies in the Nordic countries. And they said, we are not socialist societies. We are free market capitalist societies with some social programs. In fact, the Prime Minister of Sweden said that he had to the former Prime Minister had to cut back on some of the social programs and lower taxes because it was choking off their economy. And immediately there was a big increase on the number of small businesses that were opened. So I want some data here and proof of what you're saying, basically. And please go and watch this video, and everybody else, you're going to get some good entertainment there. Paul says, one massive upside that precious metals miners' biggest expense, oil, is now dirt cheap. Absolutely true. And I said that in either yesterday or the day before. I don't own miners yet. I'm still waiting for Mike Maloney to give me the go-ahead. That's never going to happen, Paul. I'm sorry. I tell people what I do. I'd never make a recommendation except to get as much information as you can, educate yourself, and make your own decisions and your own plan. Don't just listen to me. Listen to a whole bunch of people. Find out everything you can and try and come up with a plan that's better than what I've got. But I'm not going to make a recommendation. I will tell my insiders what I'm doing. I've disclosed to them everything, every move that I've made financially. Anybody that purchases a certain amount of gold or silver from goldsilver.com becomes an insider. He said he was going to buy them. Then when the markets crashed, he said he wasn't going to buy them. Now that many of them have hit 52-week highs, I'm thinking he will want some of them. Actually, I like to buy when they're at lows, not at highs. And I do think there might be one last big dip in precious metals before it's really off to the races. Maybe I'm wrong, and he won't buy any miners, but I'm not wrong that their production costs are falling through the floor with low oil, and profit margins will expand greatly. Yes, this is absolutely true, and I've covered this in many, many videos for years. They are going to be much, much more profitable. And then if you imagine the cost of, say gold is selling at $1,100 and your cost of mining is $1,000, you're making 10%. If gold goes up to $2,000, it's now up, that's like over 80%, I believe. I can't do the math in my head right now. And that means that the miner's profit, though, has just gone up tenfold. That's 1,000% increase in profit. And a lot of the miners are very close to their production costs right now. So when these profits happen, they're going to be going astronomical. And yes, you are right. However, I want to show you something here. This is the reason that I invest. For me, I want gold as my core position. I did buy one silver exploration company, and I told all my insiders about it. I even told them which one it was because they couldn't buy it. I got a private placement. I got in. It isn't even listed yet, so you can't buy it. So I could tell you what it is. I'm not going to go into it in this video. But I don't want to be a front runner. I don't want to buy a stock and then tell people I bought it or recommend it or anything like that. Those people, when they write a newsletter that they just bought a stock, when you buy it, you're buying from them. And I'm not going to do that. But here is the Barron's Gold Mining Index, and it's been divided by the price of gold. And so basically, the gold mining index is points that are established by the price of the stocks. So really, it's the value of the underlying companies that you're seeing here. And so it's expressed in gold grams instead of dollars. And so it looks a lot different. If you looked at this just in points, I'm sure that it just goes up. And it probably had a bear market in here, but it's probably above the 1968 peak or whatever this is. But it went up while gold was $35 an ounce. And then gold became free trading right there in 71, and gold went up from $35 to $873. So it increased almost 25 times. And the mining stocks measured in gold fell. And they fell from about 130 here down to about 30. So gold outperformed the mining stocks in the bull market of the 70s by a factor of 4 times the performance if you just have the dumb metal, and 8 times the performance all the way to today. And so that's the dumb metal that can't have a mine collapse, a labor dispute, an EPA shutdown, bad management, bankruptcy, a foreign country nationalizing the gold mines, all these different layers of risk that you introduce when you buy mining companies. So to me, this is gambling money only. That's my plan. And so I put very, very small amounts into things like this Silver Explorer that I bought, where if they do have you're either going to lose everything or you're going to make this huge windfall. So moving on, before the 20-minute mark in this video, I say gold accounts for the fiat currency supply, and it's happening now. That's a video to come, perhaps. I would like to know more. Well, I've made many videos on this. It's one of the key premises of this book. This book, in the first chapter, starts out with it, and the last chapter wraps it up. So it's something that sort of flows throughout the book. How gold, every once in a while, it gets ignored while these competing places to store your purchasing power, your value, those competing places like fiat currencies get expanded greatly. And then there comes a time where the will of the market, the free market, and the public bid up the price, and gold does an accounting of the expansion of the fiat currency supply. And it is happening again. And so we've got some spectacular prices. And guess what? I'm going to make a short follow-up video that'll be released on one of these weekends where I will update this, and I'll show you how you can do it yourself. But moving on, I would enjoy a video with your take about China's digital currency transition and the impact of it on the rest of the world. Well, watch episode 8 of Hidden Secrets of Money. This is an episode that tremendous effort was put into over a period of years. It came out in 2017, but the video actually starts in 2014 when I took my foray into crypto assets. And more than digital currencies, if they're digital national currencies, they are a threat to your freedom. And this is going to be happening all over the world. So people need to learn as much as they can about cryptos right now, because cryptos are more than digital currencies. They can literally run the internet. They can secure things. They can make it a lot fairer, safer world with blockchain and distributed ledger technology. Those are the keys. Distributed ledger technology. And so watch episode 8 of Hidden Secrets of Money, and then go to the homepage on my website or the videos page and use this search bar. I'm going to show you right now what this does. So if you go to my YouTube page and you just enter a term in that search bar, you're going to come up with all these videos on that topic. And this is episode 8. Make some popcorn, put this on the big screen. It's over an hour long, but you're going to know really how blockchain works, how the potential that blockchain and the other distributed ledger technologies can either free or enslave the planet. I think it's a great video. We spent a lot of work and effort. I mean, we produce these videos that they can take 6 months a team of 4, 6 months to produce, and we can spend $50,000 to $250,000 on them, and then we give them to you for free. So go and watch these. But then this search bar, put in these different terms. You've got crypto. This is Bitcoin. Then you can put in ratio. And here's all the different charts on gold-silver ratio. But take a look at this one down here. I've got the Dow Gold ratio on the screen there, but it's also gold versus real estate. So it's the gold real estate ratio. And this is 6 years ago. Put in wealth cycles. And there's a whole bunch of videos that have to do with wealth cycles. Gold versus money supply, currency supply, or currency base, because I usually compare it to the monetary base, which is the currency that the Federal Reserve creates, measured against the value of all the gold held by the United States government. And I'm going to make a video about that gold, because is it really still the U.S. government's gold, or did the Federal Reserve, a private agency, make off with it? So you'll get to see that in an upcoming video. And then socialism, put that in there. And this is the video I want everybody to watch, but there's a whole bunch of videos about socialism and capitalism here. So go and watch some of those. Have a good time. Moving on, I want to welcome all the new subscribers to this video. The last 2 videos, there's a lot of new people on the channel. And so The people that have been following me for a while are sort of getting tired of this, but get my book. It's free. It is the best-selling book on investing in precious metals, but it's not about investing in precious metals. The first 20% is monetary history, and it's entertaining, and it shows you how the same stuff keeps on happening over and over again, and it's predictable. There's the current state of the global economy, some simple economics, some potential outcomes, and then the last 20% is about investing in gold and silver. But it's still very pertinent today. I really think you're going to enjoy it. And you can get it for free, or you can go to Amazon and you can spend some of your hard-earned currency and buy it. But let me give it to you for free. You can just download it, send it to anybody you want. Like I said, it's free. The absurdity of the day. This is hilarious. So this is one of the stimulus checks. And first they started here with a threat of forgery of endorsements is a federal crime, and they'll put you in jail for 10 years and give you a $10,000 fine if you do it. So that means that it has to be the payee that endorses this. So here it says, though, if the recipient, not the payee, not the addressee, but the recipient, if the recipient is deceased, check here and drop in mailbox. So if you're dead and you received one of these, now this came from an article where they were talking about how many deceased people, how many dead people are receiving stimulus checks because they're working off of tax returns that were filed last year. So it wasn't this April, it was the previous April. So a lot of people have died since then. So there's a ton of checks being sent out to dead people. So if you're dead, please check this box and drop it in the mailbox. I thank you very much for joining me in this video, and we'll see you next time.